Well, good morning and welcome to the Art of Fire Glassblowing Studio near Damascus and Laytonsville, Maryland. I'm Bruce. I'll be doing the filming and narration. And here's your opportunity to see the wizard working behind the screen, getting ready and set up. Foster Holcomb's going to be making a beautiful piece of glass for you today. Foster? Oh yeah, get that coffee down right now. We want to tell the folks what you're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to do what we call a long stem Jack in the pulpit vase, which will be similar to this in its shape and form, but we're going to use purple Fritz or crushed colored glass, a transparent and an opalescent. We'll swirl that up, put optic impressions in it, and go from there. So,
alrighty.
Please enjoy in just one moment.
Okay. Yep, so there's a little bit of prep work, a little bit of getting ready. He's getting the irons preheated down there. And that's a stainless steel blowing iron. And no, it doesn't conduct heat really well. And that's how he's able to grab it right about the midpoint or so. Now for the first 14 inches or so of the iron up from the point where the glass is gathered, it is extremely hot. But right now he's able to walk around and use it, manipulate the pipe without any difficulty. So right now he's going to keep the iron turning so the glass stays centered. Notice what happens when he stops turning. Now we don't normally do that, but for purposes of demonstration that's a good thing. And right now he's using a cherry wood cup. Good morning, Lynn Bear, glad to have you with us. So he's using this cherry wood cup, which we call a block. It's on a handle, and it shapes the glass a little bit and chills the outside. Now, real quick like, he'll blow into the iron, trap the air with his finger, and the bubble comes out in the hot glass, and that's the air bubble from the pressurized air. So out it goes, and now he can use the block to reshape. Good morning, Wayne. Welcome aboard. Dan, good to have you with us. Okay. So now he's using the block to cool the outside and settle it down a little bit, kind of like putting a little skin on it. And also he's sitting here, not because he's just wasting time, but because he's letting the glass cool. He's going to take another gather here in a moment. And if he should gather the 2,000 degree molten glass on top of that initial bubble while it's still pretty soft, it would just collapse. And he'd have to pretty much start over. So what he'll do now is take another gather. Foster, would you show us the iron just a second so we can show the folks what you look at? So you can see that the color's no longer incandescent in the glass. The pipe has turned a deep cherry red instead of a bright orange. Those are indicators that the heat's dissipated. And it's a good idea to wait for that now, and he's going to go ahead and gather. You'll see him he's holding his hands up high there to drip some of the glass back into the furnace. And when he comes back here to the bench now, you'll be able to see the glow of the fresh glass over top of the other. He's going to let it elongate a little bit and now roll through the purple frit. This is a mix of some purple colors, and frit is just a fancy name for granular glass. But one syllable is better than two words. Okay, so now he's got the frit onto the piece. The glass is hot enough that it can pick up those little shards of frit, and now he'll melt them in. Let's take a quick look at what the residual frit looks like over here. And these are the colors he'll be using, and he's got them mixed up and on the iron right now. Take just a couple of moments to melt the frit in so it becomes one with the glass. And now what he's going to do, where he had all those little dots of color, by turning in one place on the iron and in one direction, you can see it begin to twist. This is creating lines instead of dots. So each of those little dots of frit has been stretched out into a line. And there we go. Beautiful. Okay. We usually have about a minute or a minute and a half of working time, depending on the size of the piece and how much heat's in the glass. But once the glass starts to get cold, it's difficult to work anymore. So we have to go back to that unit that he's standing in front of now, which is called a glory hole. It's a reheating oven. There's no glass in there. It's basically a ceramic tube which will withstand heat up to about 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. Hello, Bridget. Good morning. Welcome aboard. So now Foster's shaping the piece on the marver. The marver is the metal table here, and he's trying to get the diameter of this cut down to the point. You can see he's really pushing down on it. He wants it to fit into this little canister over here, which we call an optic mold. He'll be using the smaller of the three you see there. He'll get this glass extremely hot, almost to where it will drip into the mold. The mold is not the type that forms a piece for him. It's a decorative element. So when he blows in there, we'll get ridges in the glass, and you can kind of see how that's going to occur. We'll stay focused on this. He'll drop the hot glass in there, blow very hard, and when it comes out, the glass will be thrown into each of those recesses, and you'll see a series of ridges around the piece. In goes the hot glass. See how it falls actually a little bit in. He seats it, blows really hard, traps the air, and as soon as he comes out, we'll see the ridges in it. And there they are, just as advertised. We're going to twist those up, Foster, or leave them straight?
We're going to leave them straight.
Okay. So when we put the ridges in like that, we can go ahead and twist them for a slightly different look, or we can leave them as straight lines. And that's what Foster's chosen on this particular jack-in-the-pulpit. Now all the decorative elements are in place. Now it's time to make a piece of glass. He's using metal blades called jacks, which are hinged at the end. And he's cut a constriction in the pipe because nobody's going to want this jack-in-the-pulpit with a 4.5-foot piece of steel attached to the top. By inclining the jacks like that, you can see how he's tapered the bottom portion of it, and he's working on cutting a little ball into it. As the heat dissipates, he'll go back and reheat. And you can see that happening along with him by focusing on the iron, the pipe. Just past where he cut that constriction, it got a lot darker. Now he's going to blow a little more air in it, another application of compressed air, and it's back into the glory hole for reheating. So as the glass loses heat, it becomes more difficult to work with. A quick trip to the reheating furnace, which actually usually runs a little hotter than the furnace itself. That's because we need to reintroduce the heat quickly so we can keep working. After he begins to see a little bit of motion in the glass from being in the glory hole, and he can tell where the heat is, he'll bring it back and continue working. Right now he's going to be working on establishing the jack line and pulling the stem. A little bit of air for more volume. And watch how he does this. The jack blades create the constriction where the piece will be broken free. And now he's just reaching behind that little nub that he cut, but he's not squeezing a lot harder. He's pulling out. And that's how you see that stem elongate. So he's just using that ball on the end as kind of a gripping point. And he's checking out the length with his calipers there. And now it's time to settle the stem so that he can move ahead with it. The tool he's using right now are paper pegs, what we call them. They're actually a couple of cardboard tubes that have had the surfaces burned with hot glass, and they don't steal as much heat as the metal blades, and they do a nice job of straightening the glass. Now he's going to hand that off to Josh Reese, who's going to go over and do what we call the flash heat. And we'll take a quick look here. You won't really be able to see inside the glory hole very well, but it's an empty chamber, and Josh will do this 2 or 3 times depending on how long Foster is gathering glass. He just needs enough heat in that to keep it above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And when he's accomplished that, it will avoid any cracking. Okay, so he'll follow Foster over toward the bench. Foster's making a foot now for the piece. So he's going to cut a little jack line to help the glass flow off of the pipe. Then he'll stand up, drop it on the ball you see there, which is the bottom of the piece, Josh is holding it perfectly upright, and Foster clips the glass off. Next, he'll grab what we call footboards, a pair of boards that are hinged together with some fabric and notches cut into one edge. And by squeezing really hard as he turns that, he gets a real thin edge on the foot, and then he'll probably go back for a reheat to finish shaping the foot. So he's expanding the diameter of it, thinning it out, and now it's back for a quick reheat. And this is how we avoid the glass cracking and cooling too much. If we spend too much time working at the bench, we could actually lose the piece. So he's heating primarily the foot area now. Didn't take him long. Here he comes back with the fresh hot glass, and he's straightening it up a little bit, and then he'll use a tool to flatten. Nope.
I'm going to take this off.
You're going to do another one? Okay.
Yeah,
So that's the cool thing about the live events, okay? You get to see what's going on, warts and all. Foster wasn't happy with the way that foot was appearing, so it's a real simple matter of going back over to the glory hole, reheating it, and then cutting it off. So he'll be cutting it off just beyond where that ball was drawn out, right in this. So now let's watch how this happens. See how he's cutting down just beyond the ball. He'll use his shears, which we call diamond shears, not because of the material they're made from, but because of the shape of them. We'll show you that in a minute. So now he's right back to where he was with the stem and the ball on the end, and he can gather glass once more and redo a foot. So as long as we keep the heat in the glass, there's no problem in reworking it. He'll take another heat or two just to make sure that it's adequately warmed, and he'll also straighten the stem out a little bit, and then he and Josh will go through the same process again. The blades like that held on the glass straighten it out, and so do the paper pegs, chills it a little bit, and now we're back to the drawing board. We actually have another pair of diamond shears sitting here beside me, and I'm going to hold them up in front of the camera so you can see. And that middle area right there is where we cut the glass. That's the diamond, hence the name diamond shears. The little curves at the upper part of that are simply for gripping a hot pipe or anything like that that you don't want to put your bare fingers on. So the diamond shears cut the glass. The guys are coming back now. Foster's got a little bit more glass this time. Josh is bringing the piece. Josh will turn that and hold it upside down so that Foster can put the foot right on the bottom of the little vase. He'll use the shears to support the pipe, land on the ball, and then snip it off. And once again with the footboards. One of the boards is a little wider than the other one, the one that's held at the back side on the bottom of the foot. The narrower board is the one that has the notches cut in it. And with a little more glass and a little more heat retained, he's able to squeeze it out just exactly like he wants. So now it's back over to the glory hole for a little more heat and then a final shaping. Bridget says she's not sure she's seen him redo a foot before. Yeah, it happens. We just work through it, and might as well have the piece turn out like you want as long as you can. He's using a special tool right now to flatten the bottom, but then he's going to turn it over, and he's got a really neat curve on that when he places it against the glass, gives him a nice concave contour going from the stem into the bottom of the foot. In the meantime, Josh is prepared to putty. The putty is just a little bit of glass on the end of an iron, and it forms like a glue bit to hold things together. So what he's going to do now, that's right, Bridget, it's not what you can make, it's what you can fix. He's getting it all centered up, straightened, and ready to go. He'll put a little drop of water right onto the neckline he cut, that jack line, tap the pipe, and it comes off. And there's an intentional breaking of the glass. Sometimes we have some unintentional breakings of the glass, but that's very rare. All right, so done the transfer now, and as with most pieces we make, we work the bottom half to 2/3 of a vessel first, then we turn it around, transfer it to a putty iron, and work the top. And that's where we are in the process right now. So the lower reaches of this vase are completely done at this point. Foster's going to reheat the top of it and straighten things out. That's why he was using the yoke right there to kind of press things into position to help keep that putty centered in the foot. Centering's probably the hardest skill, at least in my opinion, to teach people and learn as far as glass blowing goes. Centering is simply keeping things evenly distributed around the central axis of the piece. If you don't, it wobbles all over the place. In fact, when it turns, it looks like a camshaft jumping up and down. And that's not a good thing to try to do. You can see he's got that centered up now. It's going to cool the lip a little bit, open it a bare amount, straighten it again a little bit. So it's worth it to straighten it if you see it going off a little bit. And then he'll take it back for a reheat. And then we're going to use another special tool here. We have what's called a steam cone. It's a conical shaped piece of cherry wood. It's cut green and it's held in water always, except for when we're using it. And it avoids cracking then, it maintains its integrity, but it also provides the steam to inflate the piece. The opening on this vessel right now is not very big, so we'd have no way of blowing into it. So instead of blowing into it to expand it, Foster will insert the wet wooden cone. The heat will cause steam, and the steam will cause expansion. So if you look in that area that's kind of orange colored right now, he's going to put the steam cone in there in a moment, and you'll see that inflate and blow up. We're going to get a larger diameter out of it. There we go. That's the action of the steam cone. When he's done with it, he'll put it back in the water, and then he'll begin to work the lip of the vessel to start to open that up. So you can see that except for the very top, this is largely formed already. Let's take a look at the one on display that serves as kind of a model. And to get that shape that you see at the top, he's going to open the lip up, and then some of it will be folded up, some of it will be folded downward, and then this will be pinched and pulled. And it'll take a couple reheats, a few steps to get through it. But as long as you're patient, there's time to do it. You can tell from the orange glow where the heat is. Foster's going to begin to open that up a little bit more. Hello, Barry, welcome. And now he's got that flattened lip up on the top, and then he's going to do a little fold up and a little fold down. There we go. And then it'll be time to use the pincers or tweezers, heat the top of it, and pull it out. Now sometimes when we make the jack and the pulpus, they have a very large and pronounced pull, but you can see from this one that we're doing right now, it's going to be very compact and delicate. Nice tiny shape here. He grabs his pincers and starts to pull the glass. Elongates it.
I'm going to pull that piece here.
So we're almost done with this piece, and while I have the opportunity, I'd like to mention we do these videos on YouTube live. and they're usually about 30 minutes, 30 minutes allotted. We try to do the pieces within about 20 minutes or so. But following this, in another 30 minutes, we'll have another show, which will be over on Facebook Live, and you can go to the Art of Fire page there and see it. Now Foster's got that pulled out even more with another application of heat, and there's your finished shape right there. So, thank you very much, Foster. That's beautiful. He's going to take another flash heat right now, and then we'll begin the longest part of the glass making process, the annealing. So annealing happens when we gradually lower the temperature of the glass. There's some ranges that it has to float slowly through or it will crack. If Foster put this piece on the floor right now, it would be broken up into many pieces within about 20 minutes max. But by putting it into a annealer and letting the heat come down slowly overnight, the glass is annealed, the stress is removed, and it's in good shape. A little tap on the putty to take it off of the bottom. If it doesn't want to go, we don't beat it, but it did. Okay, notice how he touched that very lightly, and off he goes with the finished piece. All right, thank you, Foster. Thank you all for joining us. And again, if you have the time and the inclination, we would really love to have you with us for our Facebook Live presentation, which will begin in, about 8 minutes or so. So today we're going to be featuring gifts that might be appropriate from Mother's Day, some glass making. So we'll be there, and that show will last us about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Thank you, Foster.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.